You have to walk the talk. You have to be authentic as a leader. If you're not doing it, they see that.
It is entirely universal. There's other people who are going through this.
For me, a great leader needs to be able to marry three things: vision, systems, and people.
Welcome to Leadership Moments if this is your first time, and if you are returning, thank you for your support.
This show is about leaders from all walks of life, leadership tips, and maybe even a little of what you wouldn't expect to help you in leadership.
We would appreciate it if you tell someone else about our podcast as we strive to support all leaders that want to just be better.
Let's get on with the show. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of spending time with a woman that I admire and have incredible respect for. Uma Thana Balasingam, who is the CEO and founder of Raw with Uma podcast, and also one of the co-founders of Elevate, which is an incredible organization that is dedicated to supporting women in their career growth across Asia. I'm blessed to have Uma with us today in San Antonio. She is here in the US visiting, and as a result, we get to sit down live together and certainly listen to some great words of wisdom, some incredible gold nuggets that I hope you will all enjoy. I will tell you also that she has a long history of executive positions in corporate, and has certainly got all the wisdom to inspire and empower women all across the globe. So with that, I'm going to welcome Uma onto the Leadership Moments podcast. Uma, it's so fantastic to be here with you. I have a big question for you. Juicy question. Corporate politics.
Yes.
What does corporate politics mean to you in terms of playing the game of corporate politics?
Well, that's a big question, and so great to be here in this space with you. It's all the way from Singapore.
Yeah.
And this is a big topic for so many people, but especially for women. And here's how I think about workplace politics. It's really about the unwritten rules about how to get what done through whom. And it's really thinking about what are the motivations of people, firstly, what motivates each person, your stakeholders, the people you need to influence. And then secondly, using that knowledge to advance your personal objectives, but also your organization's goals.
Now, you said something really profound. I want you to repeat that for the audience. And that was advancing
your personal objectives,
right,
and also your organizational goals.
Right.
So I'm hoping in this conversation, we're going to debunk that politics is a bad word when it comes to corporate and workplaces, because no matter where you go, you will encounter politics. And I think it's important to understand that if you want to advance, then you're going to be in the game.
That's right. Exactly. So I wrote down a bunch of questions because I know you, and I wanted to make sure that our audience got the best of Uma today, the raw Uma.
Thank you.
So the second one is, when you think about these unspoken rules that aren't taught, what are the crucial learnings for career advancement?
Wow. What are the crucial rules? So I think a lot of people would choose to avoid workplace politics, then to figure out what is it that they truly stand for, and then have the courage to champion for it. So I think at the foundational level, that is what it takes. You have to know what you stand for, and then you got to have the courage to champion for it.
Yeah.
And, you know, you and I have had a chance to work together in the same company. We were both stakeholders to each other. It was my job to figure out, right, who was influencing you, who you were influencing.
Yeah.
Because I needed you to get things done for my region.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I think if anyone out there is thinking about advancing in the workplace, then you must get comfortable to understand what are the unwritten rules. And I think the first step in doing that, especially a message for women, is that you have to reframe that building connections is an extracurricular activity to building connections is a force multiplier.
And one thing you said, when we worked together, what I really valued and appreciated was how you educated all of us on how your region was different. And so as we had to think about how we were building out anything, we had to always take into consideration the values of your customers, of your partners. And my point is that you did a phenomenal job of educating so that we cared.
Yeah.
And that also falls into that corporate politics bucket because you made us care and you also educated us to make us sure that we understood how different it was.
Yeah, and I think that is such an important point, especially if you are in a global role like you were, and just understanding how far removed you are from the customers that we are serving, whether they are partners or not, but the ultimate receivers of the work that we do. You're so far removed. The best value add I could do for you is to give you more information. But to your point, how do I get you to advocate for me? It is to also give you more information.
That's right.
So I did anything and everything I could. And it was also the direction I gave my team is that in every single global call you are on, your job is to educate about Asia Pacific and Japan.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So the next question I have is, what's one political strategy that you've adopted that others in your role might not have considered? I can't wait for the answer for this one. And how has it worked for you?
So one thing I've adopted in navigating workplace politics is to ask a question back. And here's why it's so important. I think anytime that you find yourself in a situation where you are questioned, you are put into a defense position, and you're in defense when you find yourself explaining, justifying, you're trying to, explain why it is why it is. So that's defense.
Yeah.
And the best thing that I have learned to be in offense is to ask a question. Mm-hmm. So then you are not in a position of trying to defend yourself. Sometimes we don't even know what we're defending. So a quick story about this is I was trying to be influenced to hire a person in my organization by a peer and also the person we both worked for. And I was quite clear in my choice, which was not to hire this person for this organization, but I felt this person could serve in another part of the organization. And so when my peer came to meet me in person to try to understand, but that means they're trying to influence you to get from a no to a yes, the conversation changed. And my peer was asking me questions like, well, what exactly is it about this person that wouldn't match what we are looking for, etc. And then went into questioning why I said certain things in my feedback. And so a question I asked in that scenario was to my peer, I said, look, are we here to discuss if this is the right person to run this part of our organization? Or are you here to question why I made the decision I made?
Interesting.
To which, this person backpedaled. And then we got back online again.
Yeah.
But that I could only do that, coming back to my first point, because I knew what I stood for and I had the courage to champion for it. And I think if you don't have those elements, it's really hard to navigate that.
Yeah, so you've said a few things that I think are really important. One is you understood, first of all, what you needed in that role. So you were educated. As an executive, sometimes you leave that job up to others.
Yes.
You took a very active role in ensuring you were hiring the right team. Good leaders do that. That's number one. Two, when you were questioned, you earned respect from your peer, I believe, by asking the right question, which is, what are we talking about? Are we talking about my decision, or are we talking about the hire? Right?
Yeah.
And in doing that, your peer and those that are potentially challenging your thought process realize that actually you have thought this through.
Yeah. But, the reality in those kind of situations, as you know, is that you come across as that difficult person.
Yes.
So you have to pick your battles carefully.
That's right.
And this is one that I wanted to pick because I felt strongly about my decision. And so then I have to think, how will I neutralize my position back with my peer, but also the person we reported to?
I love that. How do I neutralize?
Yeah.
And also there, what we're talking about is some quick pro quo.
Yes. Absolutely. But it's almost like this emotional bank account quid pro quo in this instance. But I have been put in positions where I was asked to make decisions. And this typically in sales will happen during end of quarter. And then this is where the question of your values will come in.
Yes.
Now, can I sleep at night if I make this decision, right? And a lot of people don't know the answer to that. So that's why knowing the answers to your own foundation is critical.
Yes.
And if I can, but it's still something that I'm going to do off the books, for example, then I'm going to expect a quid pro quo.
Right.
Right? And quid pro quo, for those who may not be familiar with the term, is when I'm going to do a favor for you and I'm going to expect something else in return. If it's not immediately, at some point down the road, I'm coming to collect.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it works like that.
And there's this
partnership.
Silent understanding.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So this next question is, I call this sort of, the power moves.
Yeah.
Right. And owning the game as a woman.
Yeah.
Have your political moves in the workplace ever been judged differently from your peers? So my point is, how do you handle discrepancy?
Yeah.
As a woman?
Yeah. Look, I think that anytime as a woman you are seen to be ambitious and you are playing the game, there is negative costs aligned to it.
Right.
And research backs up that negative stereotypes leads to negative consequences. And so the way that I think about it is in a couple of ways. The first is that, firstly, I'm paid to have a point of view, and I am going to provide it. And I have to know that I'm here because I'm valuable to the organization. And so I'm going to deliver that. So I can wait for change to happen, but it is more costly for me to wait for that change to happen where I'm not going to be penalized, or I can try and meet people where they are. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing I think about. The second thing that I talk about is what I call the gender judo. And the gender judo is that 80% of the time, I am going to show up the way you expect me to show up, which is I am polite, I speak respectfully, I am soft-spoken, I am gentle, motherly, even, all the things that people expect women to show up as. So that 20% of the time when I do need to exercise by that question I gave you earlier, the masculine part of me, then I'm not going to be penalized for it.
Right.
So that's the judo we play in the workplace.
I love that. I really, really love that. And I think that's fantastic advice.
Yeah.
Really good advice. The other question I have is, you always, I love your thoughts on this. I'm getting really excited. Okay. You always talk about this emphasizing the influence of the shadow organization.
Yeah.
I want you to tell our audience, what is that? And what's your advice in handling the shadow organization?
Yeah. So if you want to advance in your career, you do have to get comfortable with workplace politics. And one of the most important steps in understanding workplace politics is knowing the shadow organization. What's a shadow organization? It is understanding who owes who what, who's influencing whom, who's listening to whom, who's protecting whom, for example. And when you can figure out the shadow organization, these are the underground communication, right? These are the people who wield the powerful information and resources. An example of a resource, very typical in an organization, is a budget. So you must understand the shadow organization so that you are able to navigate getting what you want, one, to advance your own personal objectives, and two, the organizational goals.
And for example, if you have a strong leader who has strong individuals who support that individual, that would also be, for instance, the shadow organization, because they're potentially influenced by their team.
Yeah.
Right. That, I think about things like in our world would have been, if you had a chief of staff, or if you had, a couple of, direct reports that you had worked with in the past, and, you're working with them again. So the trust was there, or you had worked with them maybe for 15, 20 years, and there's trust there, right? You would find a leader typically going back to those individuals to get their perspective or their opinion, or rely on them to get things done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that could be a shadow organization.
And that's a really good point. And so how do we identify who are those people, right? And the way that I used to think about it is whose name did this person mention the most,
Yeah.
right? Just listen out for that.
Yeah.
In meetings, in one-on-ones, these stakeholders, the people who are holding power in the organization, they're usually always saying the same people's names over and over again.
Right.
Are you listening to that?
Right. Yeah. Very good point. Yeah.
And then you can always cross-check when you're speaking to the other person, right? And so what this taught me is sometimes you're in a one-on-one with an individual who's a peer that might be responsible for project X, but you could ask this person if you knew this person was in the shadow organization of someone powerful. This person could be holding information, right? They're either holding information or resource or both.
Yeah.
About project Y,
Right.
which most people would never think of doing.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they're in the shadow organization, they're receiving all sorts of information.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I know we didn't talk about this, but I really appreciated this this experience that you had, where you were about to walk into a meeting or just walked into a meeting, and it was with somebody that was actually there to meet you.
Yeah.
Okay. But they were not expecting you. And they were under the impression that you were somebody else.
Okay.
Does this ring a bell?
No.
Okay. So I have to figure it out. Okay.
Okay.
So they walked into the boardroom
Yeah.
and you walked in
Yeah.
and they asked you if you could make them a cup of coffee.
All right.
You have to please share this experience
Okay.
because I think as much as it's the way you handle this experience, even when I think about politics and even how you handle difficult situations
Yeah.
or maybe situations that might be embarrassing to someone else, or saying that you are the powerful leader in the room without actually saying it,
Yeah.
I thought was very respectful,
Yeah.
number one, and a good lesson for all of our audience.
Yeah. Yes, this happened a while back. So I am walking into the boardroom and I am taking a meeting with an external vendor. And this person is busy writing something or on the phone. And so doesn't get a chance to look up long enough and took a quick glance at me, got back down to his phone and said, "Yeah, I'll have my coffee black, please." And I said, "Let me introduce myself." And so when I spoke, and you can tell from how I speak,
Right.
obviously I was not some random person who makes the coffee in the office. That's when he looked up and I gave my business card.
Right.
And that's when he realized I was going to be the decision maker. I was the vice president of the organization, and I was going to be the decision maker on whatever he was there to sell, the services. And so then I say, "Let me show you the pantry." And I think in doing this, I have always been a champion to invite a dialogue.
Yeah.
Because the easier thing to do is for us to judge. And it was purely a moment of unconscious bias.
Yes.
So it's easier for all of us, me included, to just say like, "Well, this person is bad," or, insert your word, he's and whatever. And that's not going to get us anywhere.
That's right.
But when you invite people into a dialogue, you invoke curiosity, that's the first step to change. And I think the biggest part of this is you always want to give people a chance to pause
Yeah.
and think Because what that does is it takes back of the brain, unconscious, to conscious, front of the brain. You give them a moment just to collect themselves.
Right.
Because sometimes things are said, you get interrupted in a meeting. Somebody says, "Oh, Tracy Ann, I think you sounded really aggressive in that meeting. Like, do you know what you're doing? Like, or you weren't aggressive enough.
Yes.
We're always walking the tightrope. So we get a lot of these comments, right? Too masculine, too feminine. Our ideas are stolen, right? We have to prove ourselves over and over again. All of these are unconscious bias moments. So again, we can wait for the world to change, or we can meet people where they are.
Yes, and I love that. I really love that. And I think that was just a moment in time where that individual will not let that happen again.
Yeah, and I think the ripple effect of change will come when he sees that happening to somebody else.
That's right.
He's going to step in
That's
to
right.
say something.
Right.
And that's how
change happens.
Exactly.
Yes, that's exactly right. So I have a couple of just real fun questions.
Okay.
All right. If you could take on a hobby, something you've never ever done before, what would that be? Or learn something that you know nothing about, but you've always perhaps wanted to do it. What would that be?
There's many things I'd like to learn, but I'd like to pig dance.
Pig dance?
I'd like to pig dance.
Oh, a pig dance. I'm like, what is a pig dance? It's so funny. You would like to? That's fascinating.
So it's something I want to do more of this year. Dancing. And why dancing? It's, I think, my favorite form of play that I've ignored for a long time.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I want to introduce more play in my life. Yeah.
I'm sending you Rush, and you can dance.
Yes, it's gonna buy my taste.
I think that's wonderful. I think dance is great expression. The expression in dance.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
What is your favorite family tradition?
Ooh, well, my parents have passed, so it's now the extended family, I would say. And if I have to think back to my childhood, what would be a favorite family tradition? Every Sunday, it would be this naughty dish day, for dinner.
Yeah.
And for example, fried rice. I mean, we didn't have a lot, so fried rice would be like, oh my God, it's like so not Indian, Hardly. And so I would look forward to Sunday evenings where we would make something that is not Indian, because we'd be eating Indian all week.
Right.
And so that was something that we would do. And then there wouldn't be like a strict time for dinner. And then we could eat dinner in front of the TV.
Yeah.
Instead of on the dining table.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that in a long time. That's a great question.
My last question, because I'm always fascinated by this, is if you could be an animal, what would it be?
I would love to be a hummingbird.
A hummingbird?
Yes.
I've never, ever had anyone want to be a hummingbird. So why? I mean, I think they're incredible creatures. But
yes. I think the hummingbird, in all of its colorful glory, represents all the beautiful aspects of us, even the parts we don't want to embrace sometimes. It is light.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I think I have like bear energy right now, like very masculine and like hunker down, in my cave sometimes, hibernating. So I'd love to be more of a hummingbird and out there, and it's light and it's exploring, it's freedom.
Yes.
And I think for the last year, for both of us, we have discovered different forms of freedom
Yes.
for ourselves,
Yeah.
right? Having left the corporate world,
Yeah.
and we have a new appreciation of that. So I think about the hummingbird.
Yeah. And also the speed, the fascination of that lingering with speed.
Yeah.
It lingers.
Yes.
I love that lingering.
Yeah.
You know, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really deep. That's amazing. Like really, really amazing. So Uma, I just can't even express the delight in having you here in San Antonio from Singapore.
Yeah.
And the great work you're doing with women, in Asia.
Thank you.
And I know you've got plans to bring that here as well, do it all globally. So what I would say to everybody is watch this space. This woman is taking the world by storm.
Yeah.
Look at her podcast, Raw with Uma. You will learn so much about how to be the best woman in your career and in your personal life. And one of the things Uma believes in is how to live your best life, a rich life.
Yes.
And you will certainly learn more about how to do that with Uma.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
So nice to be here with you.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. If you enjoyed the show, please go to leadershipmomentspodcast.com to subscribe to the podcast or on your favorite player, as well as follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn.
You can also send us a message on what you like and don't like, or what guest you want us to have on the show.
So until next time,
This is Stacey Castor, and what doesn't challenge you won't change you.
and I'm Tracy Ann Palmer. Be the change you wish to see in the world.